Hey everybody, welcome back into another exciting math class, Algebra 2. Today we are going to continue with the theme of factoring. I actually went back and looked at the book again and I said something wrong in the last video. They actually give you 2 lessons to do factoring, so that's really good. And then they actually give you a third lesson on factoring by grouping. So we do have a little bit of extra time here, and I'm going to take that time to kind of explain some things that I missed and didn't have time to explain in the last video on factoring. So basically, we're still in chapter 1, lesson number 4, and then we'll kind of tie up a little bit in lesson number 5 as well, although I'm kind of just mixing the 2 lessons together since both lessons are on factoring. So, all right. I gave you that graphic organizer in the last lesson, and hopefully you looked at that. Hopefully you enjoyed that. I think it's going to work out really well for you, and I like it a lot, and I think it's going to be something that will help you. Something that's not in the graphic organizer that we're going to talk about today is factoring, and this is on, if you're looking in your book, this is going to be on page 25, 24. Factoring sum and differences of odd and even powers. A little bit more complicated, I think, than some of the other factoring that we've been doing. And so I want to take some time to look through these ones. All right, let me just go ahead and we're just going to start right off since we'd really introduced factoring last lesson, last video. We're just going to start off and just jump right into it. So if I have x to the fifth minus 32. And I want to factor that. Well, we don't, on our little graphic organizer, we kind of have something that's a binomial, so we know that it's kind of going to the binomial side. But we really didn't teach you how to do that the other day in the graphic organizer. What we taught you was how to do if it was a square. Okay, and now it's not a square, now it's to the 5th power. So the book calls this odd powers. Odd powers. Okay. And then in a little bit, we're going to talk about even powers, but this is an odd power. Now, what do you do if this power is odd? There's a couple different ways, and the way that the book shows you might be one way. The way that I show you might be a little bit different. You could probably find 100 different ways to solve this problem. So what we're going to do here is we are going to take the x to the 5th minus 32, and we're going to try to break it down. We're going to try to pull out or extract something. To me, the easiest way to do that is to extract or pull out what I would consider the base or the smallest thing that we can pull out. If you'll notice, in x to the 5th, we can always just pull out an x. The smallest thing that we can pull out of there is x. Well, that tells us that there is the to the 5th. If you kind of think through this, what is the 5th root of 32? Well, you could use your calculator to find that if you wanted to, or you could kind of just think through it. But if you find the 5th root, and this is like a little hack right here, so like a little life hack. You're taking the 5 because that is the x to the 5th. So whatever that root is, or whatever that exponent is, you want to take the root of the number with the same root as the exponent here. So we're going to take the 5th root. What's the 5th root of 32? Well, the 5th root of 32 is 2. So we're going to have x minus 2. That's the base, that's the smallest thing that we can pull out of there is the x minus 2. So what we're left with, if you will, is what we started with. We're kind of like extracting the root, and then we're going to be left with some things. Now I want to show you something, and this is from what we did in division just a couple lessons ago. We're going to take what we pulled out right there, x minus 2, and we are going to divide this, the original. Let me get rid of this here. We're going to divide the original. So let's go ahead and plug it in. X to the 5th plus 0, x to the 4th plus 0x cubed plus 0x squared plus 0x. All right, now we're ready for our 32. Minus 32. And notice what we did. We created, this is from the last lesson on the division, we created columns for all these. Okay, created a column for all these. And now what we're going to do, this is going to take some time, but we are going to divide this out. And we'll take the time to go ahead and divide this out because this is reviewing the other lesson and this is also dealing with, what we're doing today. So um, change the color of the screen or of the pen here. And I take the first into the first. And x goes into x5, whoops, x to the fourth times, x to the fourth. And now we would multiply x to the fourth times negative 2, and we would get negative 2x to the fourth. We'd multiply x to the fourth times x, and we get x to the fifth. We're going to subtract. Remember, this is like distributing the subtraction sign. So we're going to get minus x to the fifth, positive, and we're going to add now. And so we get 2x to the fourth, and this cancels. We're going to bring down 0x cubed. And again, we're going to go, I'll change the color for this one. We're going to go first into first. So x goes into 2x to the fourth how many times? And that would go 2x cubed. 2x cubed times. Now we're going to multiply. So times negative 2, we're going to get negative 4x cubed. And we're going to get 2x to the fourth. We're going to subtract, but remember in algebra, the way that we subtract is we change the sign of the second and we add. And so we're going to get a 4x cubed. We are going to get, that's positive. We are going to get, I'll just leave the sign off because we're going to change it to negative. Okay, and then we are going to get, this is going to cancel. Okay. And then we will bring down. So we're going to bring down our 0x squared. And I'll change the color again. So now it's a little bit hard to see, but we're going to go x into x to the fourth. So x into x to the fourth, and we get 4x squared. X squared. And now we're going to multiply. So 4x squared times negative 2 gives me negative 8x squared, and 4x squared times x squared gives me 4x cubed. We're going to subtract, so we're going to change the signs. That's going to cancel, and we're going to get an 8x squared. We're going to bring down 0x. Change the color again. And I know this is getting a little hard to see because I'm having to scroll back up and down, but we're going to take our x here, our first, into our first. And so that's going to go 8x times positive 8x. And then we're going to multiply. 8x times 2 gives me 16x. And 8x times x gives me 8x. We're going to subtract. So we're going to change the signs. And add. Oh, that gave me a negative. I'm sorry. This should be a positive now. There we go. That's going to cancel, and we're going to get 16x, and then we're going to bring down our negative 32. Bring down our negative 32. Okay, so this is going to be our last time of doing this. I'll change back to the white color, and we'll go x into 16x goes 16 times. And then we go ahead and multiply it out. We get negative 32. and positive 16. We subtract, we change the signs, and we get a cancel, cancel, we get no remainder. Okay. And so now this one's interesting. I want you to see something. I want you to recognize something from this when we do this. I want you to recognize what happened here. Look at what happens, and let me get rid of odd powers here so you can see this. Look what happens to this. I want you to see the pattern that's formed. Look at what's happening to the x. The x is x4, x3, x2, x, and then nothing. Look what happens to the coefficient. We end up with nothing, and then times 2 gives us 2, times 2 gives us 4, times 2, this actually should be a positive. I don't know why. I think maybe my marker just didn't write there. That should be a positive 4x squared. We get a positive 4x squared, a positive 8, positive 16. Look what's happening to the coefficient. In other words, it's we go back to this, the 32. Remember, it was the fifth root of 32. And what was the fifth root of 32? It was 2. So what's happening is it's squaring every time we go up. So we get 1 at the first one, then we get 2, then we get 4. It's not squaring, it's multiplying by 2, or it's going up. The 2 is squaring every time. And if we had another one, then we'd be back to the 32. But we extracted the 32. So here's the answer to this problem, and it's a fairly long, complicated answer. Okay? The answer to this problem is this right here. The x minus 2, the thing that we pulled out, is part of the answer. And then here is the other part of the answer right here. The big, long answer to our division problem. So the answer to this is x minus 2, parentheses, x plus 4 plus x plus 2x cubed minus, or that's a plus, that keeps going away, I don't know what's wrong with that thing, plus 4x squared plus 8x plus 16. So that would be our answer. And so you're going to need to know how to do the division in order to get the answer for these ones. The only other thing that is in this lesson that I have for you is the x to the 10th minus y to the 10th. And here's what you would do. What you can always do when they're even is you can always do the conjugate, because that's a perfect square binomial. In other words, x to the 5th plus y to the 5th, x to the 5th minus y to the 5th. All right, and so in that case, we are dealing with the conjugate. Well, what happens when you get here, when you get an odd power? I think I told you this earlier, but when you get an odd power with a plus sign, this one's done. So we're finished with that one. This one here, then we go back to, now look where we are. We're at an odd power. And so we're going to go back to where we started from with this. And now we have to take out the base and then divide the original by the base. And that will give us the same process that gave us the powers of the odd one, will actually give us the answer to the power of the even one, because once we split it, once we take it and split the conjugate, we end up with one positive, one negative, and they're both odd powers. So then this one puts us right back into the odd power. So if you know how to do the odd power, you know how to do the even power. All right, really sorry about the video. I'm not sure what's going on with it. I'm going to have to work on that a little bit, but the video is being very crazy today, so we'll figure it out. All right, we'll see you later. Have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.